Gotta stop him.
There's always more to the story.
You should be ashamed of yourself.
And there's always more to say.
Don't ever bring that nonsense in here again.
When going too far feels closer.
Maybe I overdid it.
This space thrives on the restricted. This is the Restricted Area with Robert Guerra.
Yes, sir. Back at it again for the latest edition of the Restricted Area with me, Robert Guerra. Rob G, if you're nasty. Coming to you live from sunny Southern California. And this week, decided to bless y'all a little bit with an all mailbag edition of the Restricted Area. We've had the interview. We've had me taking a week off. We had a few more solo shows. So I figured, you know what? Let's give the people what they want. You pick the topics. I respond. Y'all pay the cost to be the boss. And I just work here. All right. That's what we're going to do. That's what's happening on today's episode of the Restricted Area. Before we get to that, I'd be remiss if I didn't say at least a few words about what's going on in the NBA Conference Finals. Now, normally, as you guys know, I don't like commenting on the games because most of our audience will be getting this episode after at least one of the games has been played. But I figured since I'm here, since I'm doing a mailbag edition, I may as well share just some general thoughts about what's going on in these conference finals before I get to the extended dance remix of the mailbag. All right. So let's get started. Out west, Thunder and Spurs coming in here Friday morning on the West Coast are currently tied 1-1 heading into Friday night's game 3. And outside of the Victor Wembanyama coming out party, which was awesome in game 1, very good in game 2, but just awesome in game 1. The big talking point in this series has to be the injuries, of course. J-Dub, Jalen Williams, re-aggravated his hamstring injury there in game 2 for OKC. Dylan Harper has a hamstring injury of his own. They're calling it an adductor, but all the smart people are saying it's a hamstring. And De'Aaron Fox, again, as of Friday morning, is still dealing with the high ankle sprain, and his availability, is still to be determined. And as frustrating as all that is for hoops fans such as myself and all around the country, I just want to say this. I better not hear one damn word from any Spurs fan complaining about their guys being hurt. Because first of all, if we're going to keep it a buck, keep it a hundo, healthy Jalen Williams is a better player than De'Aaron Fox and Dylan Harper combined at this stage in his career. Now, like, that could easily change by as early as next season because Dylan Harper is on a crazy trajectory. But right now, in the year of our Lord 2026, on May 22nd at 10:04 a.m. Pacific time, all NBA J-Dub has those guys beat combined. Like, that's just the reality of the situation. And secondly, just to get to these Western Conference Finals, the Spurs had to beat a Minnesota Timberwolves team that was missing their starting point guard and Dante DiVincenzo for the entire series, their backup point guard in Ayo Dosunmu, like saying that game, for stretches of the series, and Minnesota's best player, Anthony Edwards, was like 70% of himself because he's dealing with a knee issue. Like, everybody is dealing with injuries this time of the year. It's par for the course. It's unfortunate, but that is the world that we live in. The Rockets were down KD basically all of round 1. The Lakers were down Luka Doncic for the entirety of their playoff run. Jason Tatum missed the game for Boston. Joel Embiid missed the game for Philadelphia. OG Anunoby missed time for the New York Knicks. It sucks. Like, I'm not going to sugarcoat. Like, it sucks to have this many injuries to this many key players at this point in time of the season, but that's life, bro. Check ball. I don't want to hear any Spurs fan complaining about injuries when you guys have benefited from injuries, right? OKC is dealing with injuries. See what happens, man. And then we move over to the Eastern Conference, where my Knicks, I'm claiming them, my Knicks are in the midst of the most dominant playoff run in NBA history, arguably at least. Yes, even better than the 2017 Warriors or the 2001 Lakers. Look it up. heading into game 3 on Saturday night. The New York Knicks are 10-2 and have the highest point differential through the first 12 games of the playoffs than any team ever at plus 221. That is 25 points better than Steph and KD. That's 41 points better than the Showtime Lakers, Magic and Kareem. That's 54 points better than the Jordan Bulls and 57 points better than Shaq and Kobe. They have been absolutely dominant there at MSG. And they're currently up 2-0 in the series, again, as of Friday, heading to Cleveland. Game 1 was nip and tuck there in the beginning because they've been off for 9 days. OG Anunoby was still, testing out the limits of that hamstring that he was coming back from. And they were flat in the first half, point blank period. They did not look good for the first 2.5, 3 quarters of that game. And then in the fourth quarter, they responded by having one of the greatest comebacks in NBA playoff history when they're down over 20 in the final 8 minutes and they found a way to win. That's how good the Knicks have been. And then in game 2, of course, they win going away in a blowout. But even before that, not even just counting this series, which again, they're up 2-0, coming in to the conference finals, the Knicks won their 2 closeout games over the Hawks and Sixers by a combined 81 points. Shout out to the Black Mamba. And in the process, they became just the 4th team in NBA history with multiple 30-point series clinching wins in a single playoff run. And they still potentially have 2 more rounds to go. But just for some context, just to let you know how impressive that really is. The other 3 teams on that list, the 2025 Thunder of last season, the 08 Celtics, and the 87 Lakers. All 3 of those teams went on to win the NBA title. So watch out for those Knicks, baby. Bing bong. God, I just love saying that. And with that, very quick recap of the conference finals. It's time for the mailbag.
You got mail.
Oh my God, I'm your biggest fan.
It's time for some fan mail.
I love that we got an intro, dude. Like, that just makes me feel official like a referee with a whistle. I love it. I'm trying to get through maybe like 5 or 6 of these because I think they'd be pretty good questions. And I want to give the questions the respect they deserve by providing a well thought out answer. So let's get started. Nelson writes in, says, what's up with Rob Parker trying to cape for Jim Harden these days? That dude has always been trash in the playoffs. Shout out to Nelson for calling him Jim Harden. Slim Jim Harden is what I call him. He's not called James to me until he performs in the postseason. That's just me. But Nelson, to answer your question, I don't know why Rob Parker is riding with James Harden. Like, maybe he sees something that the rest of us just does not see. Maybe he's trying to be a contrarian. I don't know. I can't tell you. Only Rob could tell you that. But the man, talking about James Harden here, not Rob Parker, was credited with giving up 20 points over the final 8 minutes of game 1 during that incredible comeback. The Knicks attacked him relentlessly. I think they averaged something like 1.6 points per possession. It got so bad that Draymond Green, who I have ripped on this podcast incessantly, and I've ripped on The Odd Couple with Rob and Kelvin, and I've ripped on the Straight Fire podcast with Jason McIntyre, that Draymond went out of his way to defend James Harden and his defensive performance in that game. And I actually had to agree with Draymond Green. Like, that's how bad it was, because they were just leaving him on an island, hunting. Almost felt bad for him, right? And then in game 2, the Cavs were so hell-bent on not letting Jalen Brunson just abuse James Harden in the ISO that Brunson ended up with 14 assists, and most of them went to wide open Josh Hart, who hit like 5 threes in that game, right? But I will say this, about James Harden, because everybody's bashing him, and rightfully so. I just mentioned he's been not good at all. But given that the Cavs, in all likelihood, are going to be eliminated by the time the next episode drops here, the restricted area, I'd like to give him some flowers on his way out the door. And I'll say this. I think that James Harden is the most influential player of his generation. Not LeBron, not KD, not Steph, Slim Jim, James Harden. And I'm talking on the court, not off the court, just to be clear, because obviously off the court, that's a different conversation, but on the court. And I say that because so many guys play like James Harden now. Like, I know Steph gets the credit for, changing the game with his three-point shooting, and that's kind of true. But if you watch basketball and you know ball in any capacity, nobody actually plays like Steph. Like, he is one of one. There's nobody like Steph Curry. The off-ball movement, LeBron and others have famously said that Steph is more dangerous without the ball than he is with the ball. And then when he does have the ball, he's a wizard. He can handle with the best of them. This side of Kyrie Irving, he can shoot off the dribble. He can shoot off the catch, whatever. There's not a single player in the league who can do what Steph Curry does at that high of a level. In fact, to take it a step further, I'd argue that James Harden's Rockets team with Mike D'Antoni changed the game even more than Steph's Warriors did. Like, I know they had the Splash Brothers with Steph and Clay, but the Warriors played this beautiful brand of basketball, like all the movement, the cutting, the back screens, all that stuff. Like, it was like watching a soccer match played on a hardwood floor, because the geometry of the floor and the way that they were all in movement and in unison, it was really a beautiful game. And because they had the two elite shooters and so many selfless players around him, Iguodala, Barbosa, Bogut, so on and so forth, nobody has really been able to duplicate that style. And that's part of the reason why even now, where Steph is old, Clay's gone, Draymond's old, they have a bunch of unproven guys, people are still kind of wary of the Warriors because their style of play is just so unique to the rest of the league. Now, Houston, on the other hand, especially with James Harden, ball up top, best player's hands, high screen and roll, shooters above the three-point line, and we're just going to turn the game into a math equation. Either we're going to get dunks at the rim, or we're going to shoot three-pointers, or we're going to get fouled. That's it. And I ask you, how many teams play like that these days? Damn near all of them, right? Like, that's the standard offense in today's NBA. And so when you look at Harden specifically, I mentioned the pick and roll, of course. He also likes to ISO, hit a step back three, or he gets in the paint and he flails and he flops and does all kinds of shenanigans to get to the free throw line. And it's like, well, who plays like that specifically? With pick and roll, step back three, flopping when you get in the paint. Luka Doncic plays like that. SGA plays like that. Jalen Brunson plays like that. Trae Young plays like basically every single high usage point guard in the league plays like that. Like James Harden. So again, I'm not saying I like it, but for better or for worse, for my money, nobody has been more influential than James Harden. All right, next one here. Charles writes in, if you don't want LeBron back with the Lakers, where do you think he ends up? First off, Charles, I didn't say I don't want LeBron back. I just don't want him back at a price tag that's going to make it seem like he's anything more than the Lakers' third option, or the third most important player, that is. And because we all know that at best, he has just like 1-2 years, maybe, left with the club. So you'd be foolish to invest heavily into a guy like that. And given that his camp, Rich Paul, has already said that they aren't taking a vet minimum, I'd say that the number that I'd feel comfortable bringing him back with would be right around the mid-level, which is like $15 million. Or if you're the Lakers, because the Lakers are historically take care of their superstars, right? Maybe you want to be nice. Maybe you want to bump it up like 19, 20 million. That's it. I'm not giving him anything more than that at all. If he wants more, bye-bye. And those numbers, again, the 15 million for the mid-level, that's a problem because the Knicks already have too much salary committed to their starting five to make any meaningful moves without crossing the second apron. And that's not even counting the fact that, let's say they do make the finals, which it looks like they're going to. What it might look like that you add LeBron, or for LeBron to go to a team like that, it would kind of look like a KD type of move from back in the day. Or number two, you'd be having to break up some of that team to get LeBron in. So that would just be kind of weird. And the other thing is his hometown Cavs, they're in even a worse situation, at least financially, because they're already in the second apron. So they would have to dump several rotational players just to even have access to the $15 million to get LeBron. So you're not adding LeBron to Harden, Mitchell, Mobley, and Allen. It's like we're adding LeBron to Harden and Mitchell and like maybe one of those big guys, and we'll see what happens, right? And aside from those two teams, we're not even factoring in the part about like his family. Bronny plays for the Lakers. Bryce is like a 45-minute flight away at University of Arizona. His wife, Savannah, seems comfortable. You seeing her on podcasts. You see her out and about with the tabloid, stuff like that. And his daughter, I think her name is Zuri, has basically spent her entire life here in Los Angeles. I think J-Mac has even said that his daughter's volleyball team has played against LeBron's daughter's volleyball team. So like they are embedded here in Southern California. So in my opinion, there is no way he is going to leave all of that behind on the family front and chase a ring back east. Like that's just, I don't see that happening. So with that, I'd say that realistically, he only has 4 options: Lakers, Warriors, Clippers, or retirement. And right now, if I were to handicap the race here again on May 22nd, I'd rank it Lakers first at like a 60% chance. I think that's more than likely what's going to happen. The Warriors at 30% because I know that he is a big fan. Obviously, Draymond Green, they're really tight, and he loves Steph Curry. And the Clippers, nominally, I'll give him 10% only because he'd be able to stay in LA and keep the family life the same. He would just drive an extra 10 minutes, west to play for them. And the reason I say I didn't mention retirement, you'll notice 0% for me, because there is no effing way that LeBron is going to ride off into the sunset without a farewell tour. That's just not going to happen. Like his ego is not going to let that happen. So that's my answer. Luke writes in, did you watch the Ronda Rousey fight last week? And if so, what'd you think? Luke, I did watch it. Yes. All 17 seconds of it I watched. I think I watched it 3 or 4 times. It was that short. Like I was just rewinded it. It wasn't a problem. And apparently a lot of other people did too, because I think I read that Netflix said they got like 17 million viewers during the live broadcast. And then through the weekend, because it's on demand at that point, the Rousey-Carano match was number 1 on Netflix when it came to the on-demand movie section, not the TV series. I think that's a different monster. But in the movie section, it was number 1. And that's notable because the UFC, you'll recall, I don't know if you'll recall, but I recall, had an event the exact same night as the Rousey-Carano fight. And it was headlined by 2 guys that casual fans just have never heard of. You just haven't. And according to reports, that fight did record low numbers for Paramount Plus, which to me signifies a massive sea change in the world of combat sports. And that is fans do not care to see the best fighters anymore. They want to see stars. Now, you could say the same thing to a lesser extent about Major League Baseball and the NBA, but I think combat sports is where it's most relevant. And the big reason, that is the big reason why the UFC, I believe, is so excited to get Conor McGregor back in the octagon later this spring. Like he hasn't fought in, I think, 5 years. And even when he was fighting there, I think he had lost 3 of his last 4. But even with that, I'd bet you like $100 right now that the McGregor fight coming up is going to be one of, if not the most watched fight in the UFC this year. Because Conor McGregor, whether you like him or not, is a star. He is a superstar. And the diehard fans are going to tune in no matter what, right? But where you really make your money is with the casual fans. That's how you grow your brand, grow your sport, right? And the casual fans don't care that he's not good anymore. Like he may, in all likelihood, get his ass kicked in this one, and it won't matter. And the same could be said about boxing, because outside of Canelo and to a much, much lesser extent, Ryan Garcia, like who's actually drawing numbers? In New Way, I think he's like the pound for pound number 1 is great. Usage is great. Bam is great. Benavidez is great. And nobody watches them. At least not the amount of people you would expect given how awesome those guys are as fighters. And that's why, for my money, Mayweather Pacquiao 2 is going to be a hit. It's going to be a monster for Netflix. It's 2 household names. It's 2 stars. It's 2 guys that casual fans know about. And, in all honesty, neither one of those guys are in their primes. You could argue they're like 12 to 15 years beyond their primes. Like, that's how long it's been. And they would, if we're being honest, they would get erased by any of the current champions fighting right now because they're just over the hill. And that's the reality. That's what comes with Father Time. And again, similar to Conor, it doesn't matter. It does not matter because the name of the game in sports entertainment, which this is, not just WWE where it's scripted, but all sports are entertainment first. The name of the game is draw eyeballs. That's how we all get paid. That's how I get paid. That's how the guys who run Recliner Media get paid, is by clicks and views and so on. And sports fans have been telling us for a while now, we don't care to see the best. We only want the brightest, want the stars. All right, next one here. Jeremy says, saw your boy J-Mac ripping on Shea this week after he won the MVP. Do you think SGA is overrated too? Jeremy's talking about my guy, Jason McIntyre. Had some run there with the clip that he had on our show, or excuse me, his show that I co-host with him, Straight Fire, where he was saying that the hype is over, the SGA is overhyped. He's just having a good run. He's not really an all-time great. And Jeremy, to answer your question, no, I do not think SGA is overrated like J-Mac does. Because you mentioned he won the MVP. This is the 4th straight season that SGA has finished in the top 5 in MVP. Of course, he's gone back-to-back winning it the last 2 years. Before that, he finished 5th and he finished 2nd. And in the process, he is now the 7th player over the past 40 years to win multiple MVPs before turning 28. Here are the other guys on that list. Nikola Jokic, Giannis, Steph, Duncan, MJ, LeBron. That is, 6 of the top 12 to 15 players ever. That is, 3 of the top 5 there, and for my money, Duncan, LeBron, Jordan. So yes, SGA is in very exclusive company. And this year, specifically, Shea became the first player since Michael Jordan to average at least 30 points in 4 consecutive seasons. This year specifically, 31 points per game, 55% shooting. Nobody has ever reached those heights. Not MJ, not LeBron, not Kobe, nobody. And he did all of that while leading OKC to the NBA's best record for the 2nd straight year, despite, I think I read this, I'm almost positive this is true, they had the 3rd most games missed due to injury. I just mentioned J-Dub, their all NBA forward. I think he only played like 33 games this year. So if Shea does what he is expected to do, I know it's still 1-1 going to game 3, but as of today, they are still favored to win the series. They are still favored to hoist the Larry O'Brien at the end of the year. And if he does that, that is going to lead to some very uncomfortable conversations. Okay. SGA's Thunder and Jordan's Bulls, Steph's Warriors are the only teams in NBA history to win at least 80% of their games over a 2-year span. And no team has ever had a better point differential over 2 years than this current OKC team. So if he continues at this pace and the Thunder wind up winning this ring as expected, and he wins another finals MVP, again, as expected, we're going to have, as I said, some very uncomfortable conversations about where he ranks in the pantheon of NBA greats. He's already 4-time first-team All-NBA. Let's say, conservatively, he finishes with like 7 or 8. And maybe he gets a few more second teams later on the back end. So that's 10. That's 10 All-NBA teams. He's already got 2 MVPs. Let's say he gets 1 more. Maybe we'll see, what's going on Jokic is still out there. Wemby is coming. Luka, I'm sure, is going to get at least one in his career. So, that's 3. Let's say he has 3 MVPs. At the end of this season, in this scenario, he'll have 2 rings, 2 finals MVP. Let's say he gets one more because, again, Wemby is coming. He's going to collect them all like Thanos in the Infinity Stone. So let's say he has 3 rings, right? So hypothetically, in this scenario, he ends his career 10-time All-NBA, 3-time MVP, 3-time champion, 3 times final MVP. If that plays out like that, how is he not the greatest player of his generation? I'm asking you, how is he not? How is that resume not greater than Jokic, greater than Giannis? And if that's the case, if he has a better resume than each of those 2 guys, how is Shea not a top 10 to 15 player in NBA history? How is he not greater than Dwayne Wade or Kevin Garnett or Isaiah Thomas or Charles Barkley or Karl Malone? It's crazy when you think about it, right? So I disagree with J-Mac on that point. I think I got time for, maybe 1, 2 more. Actually, maybe we'll do 1 more. Ernie writes in, I've been following your shows for a while, and I noticed every team you bandwagon for winds up sucking. Why are you, who are you jumping on this year? Please don't say my Niners. First of all, Ernie, that's only half true. It's only half true. Because when I jumped on the Pistons bandwagon this year, and I was on the Knicks bandwagon last year, they didn't suck, all right? They just didn't win. They won, they didn't win the championship. In fact, Ernie, you could argue that my Knicks and my Pistons, again, they're my teams because I jumped on the bandwagon, they actually exceeded expectations when you consider where people thought they would be. Because the Knicks knocked out the Celtics in the playoffs, which was a good look for me. And this season, Detroit was the number 1 overall seed coming into the playoffs. Okay. So I should get credit for those, Ernie. But to your point, the one I did miss on, and missed on it hard, super hard, was the Jets a few years back, right? Aaron Rodgers, first season with the team, I was all over the Jets, and he tore his Achilles. So I figure I get a mulligan on that one. That's not fair. I can't anticipate Aaron Rodgers tearing his Achilles 4 snaps into his career there with the Jets. But I will say where I made a mistake is I went back to the well the next season. And I want to say I picked them to win the Super Bowl. I think I picked them to make the Super Bowl. I almost probably picked them to win it too. And then they sucked again, right? And they didn't just suck. They were one of the worst teams in the league. And they had one of the worst offenses in football. And everybody got fired, right? So yes, I missed on that one. I'll own it. That was a bad job by me. But as far as this year goes, I'm assuming you're not talking about the NBA season because, again, we're still in the middle of it. I'm guessing you're talking about football. And as far as this season goes, I haven't dove super deep into it because we're still in May and I'm still kind of locked into the NBA playoffs right now. But I can tell you to ease your fears, I'm not picking the Niners. That's not a team that I'm jumping on the bandwagon for. But if I had to make a choice today, I think I'm leaning on the Dallas Cowboys. Yes, the Dallas Cowboys. Call me crazy. I don't care because I like the way they're put together. Between Dak and CD and Pickens, I think that group, that trio, is just dynamic in the passing game. Javonte Williams has been a revelation in the running game, right? Best running back I think they've had probably since Zeke. And this is going to be the big thing about them. I don't think the defense is going to be bad. I really don't. I think they're going to be a solid unit. Remember, they were terrible to start the season, but they really turned things around after the Quinn Williams trade. So when you factor in Q and Kenny Clark at the nose tackle, they got Rashawn Gary to help with the pass rush. Overshown is another year removed from surgery, so he should be back to closer to what we saw a couple of years ago. And they just added, if you followed this podcast a few weeks ago with the Daniel Kelly episode, they added the best player in the draft in Caleb Downs to play on the back end. I don't know if he's going to play safety, he's going to be nickel, but he is, not just according to me, but to a lot of people, the best and the safest pick in the draft. So, with that in mind, not only do I think that the Cowboys are going to be good, I think they are going to win that division. If you listen to this podcast before, you know I think the Eagles are a team in transition. I believe that Jalen Hurts will be out of there after this season. They hired an offensive coordinator who has never called plays before. A.J. Brown, in all likelihood, will not be there once he gets traded here in about a month. And so, if the Cowboys win the NFC East, which I expect, they'll have home field advantage. I think I will almost guarantee that they are going to win a playoff game, which will be huge for them in Dallas, right? And depending how the bracket shapes up, if they get a team that is, offensively challenged, that is more of a defensive-oriented squad, then I think that they can absolutely have a real shot at making the NFC Championship. I really do. Now, I'm not going to go as far as say Super Bowl, but as relative to expectations, I feel like me jumping on the Cowboys bandwagon and saying they could make the NFC title game, I think that's a pretty, I'm really off on the deep end on that one. So I think that counts. So that's who I'm on this year. My Dallas Cowboys. All right, that's going to do it for me. This episode of the Restricted Area Podcast. Check out the YouTube channel. Check out all the Recliner Media stuff they got on there. Great work being put out there. Check out my social medias on X, on Instagram, @the producer RG. Until next time, peace out.